Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Another broadcast of TonniLea TV Healing Hearts. And today we have Emi Create, who is, well, she's actually from another country. She is from over in the UK. And she's an amazing young lady because she just goes to different places all the time. And I can't wait to hear. Emi is a personalized support for heart-centered enterprises. She does Let's Do Marketing and Business with Heart. She is a creative branding strategist and a marketing communication coach. So would you please welcome Emi? Hi, good afternoon, Emi.
Hi, I'm
So,
very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
and I'm just so glad that we finally connected and got together. So that's a good
Yeah.
thing. So I am so privileged to have you on the show, and I can't wait to hear about your story. And I love that you're marketing and that you're coaching and all of that is connected with the heart. And so, in other words, when you do it with the heart, you're going to do it with a good job, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so tell our listeners a little bit about where you are from in the UK.
Mm. Yeah, so I come from Europe, and it's true that I often travel to the UK, but initially I come from France. And but I'm very attached to the UK because I lived in London 10 years ago during 2 years. And this is where I started to develop my passion for English speaking countries and English speaking cultures, like in the US, in the UK, in Australia. And also, it challenged me to learn the language and learn how to speak. And it's such a journey, to become fluent in another language than your initial mother tongue. So yeah, I've enjoyed learning English and a lot through the arts and culture. And I became a blogger about Anglo-Saxon countries, English-speaking countries. And so it's funny because I started to write in French and English and to mix French and English and to learn a lot like this. And after 2 years, I felt like my blog has taken me to travel to new places. Sometimes I find myself, being very close to a place where I used to blog and write about, like last year. And it's funny because I first nurtured that blog to nurture my passion and, nurture my soul and what was feeding me. And now sometimes I feel like my blog is giving me some energy back because it has fed my soul with so much dreams of traveling. And for example, now I'm in Seattle in Washington State. And it's really funny because last week I've met a friend here, and she took me to a place. She thought that I might like this place. And I arrived there and I was like, wow, this place reminds me of a TV show I've written about on my blog. It's very funny. And then when I came home, I did some research, and I found out that that village was actually just 20 minutes away from where they have recorded Twin Peaks. Do you know the old TV show Twin Peaks?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was the first format of a TV show so it's such a legend. And I wrote about on my blog, and I've actually realized that I was just very close to where they have recorded the TV show. So it's really funny, like how because I didn't have this intention by coming here, but by the people I meet on the platforms and how my travel get organized. Sometimes I just happen, to to be in places that I've written about before. So it's really amazing.
Wow. So far, what is your most favorite place that you visited?
Yeah, so I can say I really love it here in Seattle because it's you have everything that you have in a very big city, but you have a lot of nature as well. I mean, nature is everywhere here. I've never seen such a green city as Seattle, honestly. We have some cities in Europe that we call green cities,
Mhm.
but to me, when I arrived here, I thought, okay, so this is nothing compared to what they call green here, because here it's really green. It's like there are trees everywhere. Houses are almost, integrated in the initial land, and yeah, it's beautiful. And you have lakes, and not far you have big mountains. So, and not that far, just a few hours away, you have the ocean. So
Mhm.
it's like, wow, it's a very powerful place here because you have a bit of everything. But just before coming here, I was in Washington, D.C. as well. And I really enjoyed Washington, D.C. because definitely want to go there again because I've started to visit the city, but there is so much to see. I
Mhm.
couldn't see everything. So, and I've made good friends there, and they told me that I should come back. So, yeah, I'll definitely plan to go back there.
That's amazing. What was your favorite part in DC?
Yeah, so definitely the first was the White House. I
Mm,
mean, I approached the White House, but of course, you can't approach it that much. But what
yeah.
I really liked is the visitor center of the White House. It's good. I mean, it's really worth it, and I really like the way they organize the exhibition. I mean, they make it very playful and very interesting. So this was my first visit that I really enjoyed, and I mean it was something like, the White House. It's like
Right.
you want to see it at least once. And then I could say that the National Gallery, I spent a few hours in there and I was really amazed. They have incredible paintings. I mean, National Gallery in London used to be my favorite place, but the
Mhm.
National Gallery in Washington D.C. is definitely worth it. It's huge. There are so many amazing works. I mean, yeah, it
Wow.
was really impressive. And then the area that I really loved in Washington in DC is called Georgetown.
Yes.
It's a neighborhood. I guess you
Mhm.
know, and it's really is beautiful with the canal, and as well it's very green. It's I mean there are
Mhm.
lots of trees, and the houses are nice, and yeah, I've had a good time there.
Yeah, and for me, it was all about the history of the country and how it all started, and where it came from and stuff like that. So that's what I loved about all of that over there. Yeah, it was very intriguing.
Yeah, it's learning about the history and the culture.
Mhm.
I visited as well an exhibition about at the Kennedy Center, and
Mhm.
we were sharing about how the President Kennedy was involved into arts and culture and into bringing,
Yes.
so much light on artists and creative people. And this was really amazing.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't remember so much about, was it him or was it his wife? Because I know Jacqueline was huge with the arts and all of that type of
Yeah.
stuff. So
So in
yeah.
the exhibition, we understand that they were both really passionate about this.
Mm,
So both they were very active, and then his wife continued to do this work
yep.
after. Yeah, so yeah, they were very involved and both passionate about arts and culture. And I think it was a huge turn in the cultural life of the country because
Sure.
it really made it important. I mean, in Europe, it's more usual that art and
Right.
culture are made important, but here he made a big difference because it's not so common here to put so much light onto artistic life.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
Mm.
because of the fact I had been in Italy, where I mean that's
Yeah.
art is huge.
Mm,
So I can only imagine what it was like, in France
mm,
or in London and stuff. And so
mm,
I think that's one thing that we forget about, or especially people nowadays, that there's so much art out there. And back then,
mm.
when there was hardly anything, I mean, it was huge. And so to see the works of the artist from then, it's just breathtaking to me.
Mm. Yes, and it's what we have a lot in Europe is that we have administrations, whole administrations that
Hmm.
this art and
Right.
patrimony. We have a really huge commitment to protect even the landscapes. Like something that
Yes.
surprised me a lot when I arrived in Seattle. I'm staying in a house nearby the Washington Lake, and I was really surprised to arrive and to when I drive next to the lake. I mean, the road is really next to the lake, but I can't see it. I can't see the lake because all the border of the lake has been built with private houses. So the only thing you can see is garages. You see the garages, the fence, and everything is closed by fences. And this is something that really surprised me because in Europe we would have a public law and yeah, we would have laws and rules that would prevent anyone to buy the
Right.
border. I mean, they would protect it, so they would make a little trail and put some grass. So when you drive, you could see the lake, and even for people who live in the area, we could go down there and take a walk along the lake, and there it's fully, it's fully blocked. And yeah, for example, that's something that is surprising. But then, I guess just one house there is a few millions. So maybe that size the deal or something like that. I don't know.
Well,
It's,
Well, you're correct though, because in America, everybody wants to live to where they can walk out into the lakes or whatever. So they have the front, lakeside properties and that type of stuff. But then it takes away from everyone else because
yeah.
you would think that you would have access to it like you do in other countries. So the priors, the way that we anyway, the way that we look at things
Yeah.
is different, definitely, than the other countries. For me, it was the realization of how the old is left in your countries, like Italy and stuff like that. Here, we tear them down. It was wonderful when I was in New York City because I got to see so much of the old, buildings and stuff that our country was built on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. While
but
we
they
keep,
get tore down and the new ones that get built up. And
and we,
your country, Italy, they just build next to it,
yeah.
but they
Yeah.
don't tear that stuff down.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like what I said, we have very strict laws about this. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have the right to destroy an ancient mansion or building or stuff like that. And in some areas, the owners, they have very strict rules about what they can do outside of their apartments or home, because it has to be the style has and the architecture has to be protected. So yeah, and you see that. That's why you see so many historical buildings and stuff in Europe, because some it was public decisions. I mean, to just protect everything.
Yeah. Well, and sadly in the US, sometimes I think we're like a disposable country where if you don't like it, you can get rid of it and do something new. And it's
Mm,
sad because I personally like the old stuff. I like to know what my country was built on. And
mm.
you can look in New York City, you can look in Washington D.C. I'm sure you saw it, but you can see so much of the English building that was brought over, right? Because that's who came over here.
Yeah,
I mean, of course they're going to bring that with them because that's what they knew, right?
yeah.
And it's just so I love it. It's breathtaking to me.
Yes,
So,
it's beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of British architecture in
Mhm.
Washington D.C. I definitely saw that, and I really liked it. But to balance this a bit, I think that in Europe, we're called the old continent, and it's for a reason, because there's a good side, like you say. I agree that it's good to keep all things, but as well it's influencing the mentalities a lot. And I think that in Europe we tend to be too attached to the old and the traditions, and
Mm,
like things that have always been this way, so it can't change. And I really, what I enjoy about American culture or even British culture is that you're a lot more flexible, and
mhm.
you enjoy the change a lot more. You're less afraid of making changes, and
Sure.
yeah, this is something that I really like, because it makes new a lot more things. More things can happen, and new things can happen much more easily here, and I really enjoy that.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, we are a country of change.
Yeah.
So, Amy, what was it that made you decide to leave over there and to start just traveling and going to different countries and places? And how
Hmm.
did that come about?
Yeah, so I've started to develop my business about marketing and communication while being in France, and I've first there was this whole pandemic time where everything was complicated, to move around. So I've started with very small trips around my place, in my region, or in my country. And then I saw that it was helping me a lot. It was giving me a lot of positive energy. So then I started to do more and more. I mean, longer stays and going a bit further. And then I started last year to go abroad. So from France, I moved 3 months to the UK, in Wales, which is an part that I really love. And then I enjoy it. Then I went to Italy as well, and
Mm,
it was so great. And after a while of after doing that many times, like, I've played it the very safe way at the beginning. It was just going and coming back, so it was no risk at all. And but after a while, that the coming back part started to just not make sense anymore, because I was enjoying myself so much when I was going away, and then I never wanted to come back. So this year I really made that big leap of faith, and I've done it. I thought, okay, so if coming back never makes sense, why do I keep coming back? you know
right?
I just face the reality in a very simple way. I said, so okay, so how can I do not to come back home? How can I make this possible? And then it was very amazing how, from the time when I made that decision to do it, it's funny, because I've started to meet people who were just ready to help me. I mean, every little issues I had about, that made it difficult maybe to leave everything and go, everything started to be get sorted out, and I've started to meet, it's like you start to meet people out of the blue, and they just give you exactly the solution that you need. And so yeah, I've started to organize a little bit of the trip in Washington DC, and then I found exactly what I needed to go to Seattle afterwards. And then I've contacted an old friend that I haven't seen in 20 years that is in the US, and she told me to go there to visit them for Halloween. And I mean, so many plans like this, just one after the other, and everything just went so fluidly. I mean, everything was fluid. It was like, okay, so going on the platform and talking to a few people, and then just exactly, you give people what they need, and they give you exactly what you
Right.
need. And so then it gave me the strength and confidence to really do it and think like, okay, I mean, something is aligned. The doors are opening, and so it means, for me, it just means that I was ready. I was
Right.
ready to, because the universe clearly took away every blocks and spheres that I had. If I had maybe a list of 5 to 6 things, I mean, during a few weeks, each of them had been removed by something or someone around me. So then I thought, okay, I think that's a green light.
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I would think that you'd have to be a very strong person in order to do that, because otherwise, so many people, I mean, they love to be gone, but then they love to get home. I'm
Hmm.
that way. I mean, I love to be away and I love to see meet new people and all of that, but there's no place like home. And
Yeah,
that's kind of from that movie, but yeah,
yeah. And by the way, I love that movie and
Wizard of Oz.
song. It's amazing. And I think I'm normally the same, but what I want to share is that all of this belongs to maybe a special phase in your life where I've been through a reconnection work internally for a few years and a few months. And the more I have reconnected to myself, the more I have felt disconnected from where I used to live. So this is something that happens. Sometimes it is
Yeah.
really the price to pay for that reconnection. You
Hmm.
you reconnect to some other things, and you disconnect, of course,
Sure.
from things. And I felt little by little very disconnected to that environment where I used to live, and it felt like everything I used to like in that environment, I mean, it wasn't there. Everything ended one by one, and at some point there was like almost nothing left. I mean, I've trusted the process, and I've decided to go with the flow because it was so obvious that something was off for me there. And and I can't call this place home anymore. So maybe it's more like a time where you need to redefine where home is, or maybe what home is really is for you.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a particular phase, and but I understand, how home can be amazing when it's really the right home.
Sure. Well, and we're all made different. If we were all the same, it would be a boring world. So,
Definitely.
you just intrigued me because of the fact you said something to me earlier that home is in your heart.
Hmm.
That's and so obviously you are very comfortable with who you are and what you're doing.
Hmm.
So, how do you think you get there? what made you become so strong? And I know that it was because you started feeling detached from, where you were and that type of stuff. But is it your work that's done that? Is it because you're finding out who Emi is?
Hmm.
What can you relate that to?
I think it's because of, thanks to a lot of personal development work and lots of healing, mainly healing. And today, I come from a marketing and communication background, but what makes sense for me today is to help healers with my communications and marketing skills. And why do I do that? Because they have made me. I mean, those people, the healers, the meditation teachers, all the people I've met online who have shared very sometimes uncomfortable messages, and all those people who have dared doing that, they have made who I am today, because they have given me a chance to express myself, or to understand myself, or to deal with what was around me. And eventually, by the compassion and empathy they have sent to me, even virtually, I've been able to just heal and feel so much better about myself. And so I've always been a traveler. I've always been willing to go on adventures. This is but for a while I was too, maybe I was carrying too much wounds inside of me. I wasn't healed at all. So this whole adventure part of myself was a bit quiet and a bit shy, and because I became, scared like everybody. But the whole healing process and the inner work, where for a while I was very static, just in one place, and doing all this work, which was quite painful, because healing
Yes,
is painful,
it is. Yep.
while before it's amazing, it's first it's painful. But now I feel like all this work is paying off. It's paying off because I'm finally able to go on this adventure. I'm not scared. I still have my spiritual teachers, my guides, and I know they are there. And so that's why I like the online, what we do online. you know
Mhm.
it matters, even if some people are listening now, if they don't have tons of followers. I mean, you don't have to have that much of a huge community, because your message is always reach people. And
It's true.
it helps. I mean, the healing vortex that has been online, especially during the pandemic and for the months and years after the pandemic. I mean, it has changed so many lives. And I know that not everyone has made, huge success or millions out of it, but all the people who were involved in sharing healing messages, I mean, they have helped thousands of people heal
Yeah,
and feel better today. So I really think the online, what we share online matters. And,
absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree because for me it changed because my work kind of started a little before COVID hit and all of that, and I seen what a huge difference it made.
yeah,
And I mean, it kept us going because we were able to start communicating with people
yeah,
outside of our city, outside of our state, outside
yeah,
of our country. We finally realized what a huge gift we had instead of how horrible it was for the world. So
yeah,
we took that bad and we made it a good, and so it's been huge.
yeah.
We're almost out of time, Emmy. So I want you to speak to the listeners today. And what advice would you give them? What would you say to them if they came to you? So It's
Yeah,
yours.
so what I want to share is that in some phases in your life, changing your environment can be amazing for you because it will bring you amazing new connections, new friends, and new perspectives. So if you want to give this a go, but you don't really know where to start, you can definitely contact me and reach me. Take the first step to add a little bit more travel, more movement in your life. I'm not saying to take a huge step first because it's not even the way I've done it. It's a step by step process, so I can definitely guide on that. And as well, if some healers need some support in doing their marketing and the social media, building an online presence and visibility, I mean, I'm here to support, and I support in a way that includes that people are sensitive, that they don't come from my profession, and I make it accessible and easy and even fun and enjoyable, because like when we do branding, it's creativity. It's just as fun as if you were doing some paintings. So let's I like to bring the tools to healers so they don't give up. I don't want amazing healers and talented gifted people who give up because of the marketing headache. I
Mhm.
know it's a headache, it can be, and
Yeah.
but if you have a wonderful gift to offer, just don't give up. Reach out to people for help and support.
And where can they find you, Emi?
Yeah, so they can find me on my website on positivesocialimpact.com. So they can see the link below, and they can contact me on my email. It's contact at positivesocialimpact.com. So yeah, and even on Facebook, you'll find me. I'm Emi Create, and I'm also on LinkedIn with my Polish name, which is Emily Grolowicz. But it's there's my pseudo on LinkedIn as well, Emi Create. So yeah, definitely give me send me a message and reach out to me, and I'd be
Awesome.
happy to share some good tips with you.
Well, Emmy, it has been a pleasure to talk to you again and to hear all about your adventures and the loves that you have and the places that you've been. So I am so glad that you're here in America, and I hope that you get to enjoy a lot more because I tell you what, there is an awful lot to see here. That
Yeah,
is for sure. And I've lived here all my life, and I have yet to see it all. So,
yeah, there is so
but
much to see. I mean,
yes,
yeah, it's I'm gonna need a whole lifetime to see all of it. But yeah,
right.
that's why you need to start soon as possible, because when you start, you just want to see everything.
Well, thank you, Emmy. All right, so that is it for today's show. And I tell you what, she's a creative lady, and what a challenge that she's taken on, and it's so amazing to hear her story. So thank you for watching us today, and we'll see you on our next show. This is TonniLea TV.